Commander Arlen Voss stood at the edge of the Earth Alliance Council chamber, feeling the weight of 1,000 worried eyes on his back. The room was huge, circular, and brightly lit, but it felt small to him, almost suffocating. Everyone inside, the scientists, diplomats, admirals, and representatives from different nations, looked tired. Some had dark circles under their eyes. Some kept rubbing their temples. And some looked like they had not slept in days. They all had a reason to be afraid. The war against the Drothari Dominion had lasted 4 long years. Humanity had tried everything: alliances, new weapons, retreat strategies, but nothing seemed to matter. The Drothari were too strong, too fast, and too old as a civilization. They had ruled parts of the galaxy for thousands of years. To them, the humans were a young species, barely worth noticing. And yet, they still targeted Earth with full strength. Every week, another human colony fell. Every month, a fleet went missing. And every day, the Drothari fleet came a little closer to Earth. Arlen looked up at the massive hologram floating in the center of the chamber. It showed the map of nearby star systems. Red lights blinked where Drothari forces had taken control. There were too many red lights. Almost the entire left side of the map glowed red. Earth was still blue, but it felt like it would turn red any moment. A council member finally spoke. "Commander Arlen Voss," she said, her voice shaking slightly. Arlen walked to the center of the room. His heart beat hard against his chest. He was used to battlefields, not political rooms. He could face enemy fire, but facing politicians made him uncomfortable. Still, he kept his posture straight. The councilwoman continued. "Commander, humanity has been given a chance. A rare chance." She paused, looking at the others before she went on. "The Thrin Coalition has offered us an alliance." A soft murmur spread through the chamber. The Thrin were not enemies, but they were not close friends either. They were a powerful alien species known for their strict honor codes, warrior traditions, and ancient culture. Their appearance made most humans uneasy, tall, armored, with sharp lines around their eyes. They looked like a cross between a humanoid and a metallic reptile, though they were more advanced and intelligent than both. They were not evil, but they were not gentle either. Arlen frowned. "I thought the Thrin avoid direct conflict with the Drothari. They prefer neutrality." The councilwoman nodded. "Usually, yes, but the Drothari have become too aggressive. Their expansion threatens even the Thrin borders. The coalition now sees humanity as a valuable partner in the larger fight." A different council member added, "But there is a condition." Arlen's stomach tightened. Whenever aliens offered conditions, they were rarely simple. The council chamber fell silent for a moment. Finally, a representative from Earth's diplomatic corps spoke carefully. "The Thrin wish to seal this alliance through a traditional cultural bond. To them, the strongest alliances are not written on paper. They are made through unity of families." Arlen blinked. "Meaning?" The diplomat took a slow breath. "Meaning they want a political marriage. A human must marry a Thrin warrior of their choosing." The entire room felt heavier. Arlen stared. "You're saying an interspecies marriage?" "Yes," the diplomat said. "A symbolic union. It is seen as the highest sign of trust among the Thrin. If this marriage happens, their entire coalition will be bound to support Earth in the war. Their fleets, their technology, their soldiers, all will stand with us." Arlen understood immediately what they were implying. "And you want me to be the one who marries her?" The council members didn't deny it. They looked at him with quiet, tired eyes. "You are the most respected commander of your generation," an admiral said. "You have saved more human lives than anyone else. The Thrin admire strength, courage, and self-sacrifice. They specifically asked for someone like you. Someone like me," Arlen thought bitterly. "Someone they can use." His voice was steady, though. Do we even know who she is? Or what she looks like? The councilwoman hesitated. Her name is Zyra of the Iron Crest clan. She is a decorated Thryn warrior. Arlen waited. No one continued. That was a bad sign. Show me, Arlen said. A hologram flickered to life. A tall Thryn female appeared. She was almost 7 feet tall, with metallic blue armored skin, glowing amber eyes, and sharp facial ridges. Her presence felt like a living storm, intense, heavy, and intimidating. She carried a warrior's staff on her back, and her shoulders looked broad enough to break a reinforced door. Her appearance would be terrifying to most humans. Arlen heard more murmurs from the chamber. Some whispered that she looked dangerous. Some whispered she looked monstrous, and others simply looked away. To human eyes, she did not fit any idea of beauty. But Arlen kept staring. Not because of fear, but because of the way she stood steady, calm, proud. She did not look cruel. She looked like someone who had survived many battles. The councilwoman closed the hologram. Her appearance may be different, but she is not hostile. The Thryn consider her one of their strongest protectors. Arlen spoke quietly. And if I refuse? No. No. Arlen spoke. A different admiral answered this time. Then Earth stands alone, and the Drathari will reach our planet within months. The room fell silent again. Arlen closed his eyes for a moment. He thought of Earth, of the oceans, forests, cities, families, and all the billions of people who lived below the skies. He thought of how many had already died in the war, and he thought of how much more humanity would lose if the Drathari reached their homeworld. He finally opened his eyes. I will do it, Arlen said. Relief spread across the room like a quiet wave. Thank you, Commander, the councilwoman whispered. You may have saved humanity. Arlen didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man walking into the unknown. Hours later, Arlen stood on the launch deck of the Earth Alliance spaceport. The Thryn flagship hovered in orbit above the planet like a giant silver spearhead. Its surface shimmered with strange patterns, and its engines glowed with an unnatural blue light. Beside him, his friend and fellow officer, Captain Mira Hale, helped adjust his diplomatic uniform. You don't have to look so serious, Mira teased, though her smile looked forced. It's not like you're marrying a dragon. Arlen raised an eyebrow. Have you seen the hologram? She laughed softly. Okay, fine. She looks scary, but still, this will help Earth, and you're doing what no one else could. Arlen sighed. I'm not afraid of her. Mira. I'm afraid of what comes next. Mira placed a hand on his shoulder. You've survived battles no human could survive. You'll survive this too. But Arlen wasn't sure. Minutes later, the shuttle took off, rising through Earth's atmosphere. The sky darkened, stars appeared, and the massive silhouette of the Thryn flagship grew larger and larger until it filled the entire front window. The shuttle docked smoothly. When the doors opened, Arlen stepped inside the ship. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Thryn ships were known for being extremely quiet, almost unnervingly so. The halls were tall and shadowy, with silver walls that glowed faintly. Strange symbols floated in the air as part of their interface systems. 2 Thryn guards appeared. They were almost as tall as the hologram had shown Zyra to be. They bowed slightly. Commander Arlen Voss, one said in a calm, echoing voice. Zyra awaits you. Arlen followed them through the long hallway. Every step made his chest tighten. Every corner felt like it led to something unknown. But he kept moving. He had chosen this path, and he would walk it, fully. Finally, the guards stopped in front of a large door with glowing markings. She is inside, one guard said. Arlen took a deep breath. The door slid open. Inside stood Zyra. She was exactly as the hologram showed, tall, armored, glowing-eyed. But in person, she felt even more overwhelming. Her presence filled the room like a storm cloud. Yet, when she turned to look at him, her expression was not hostile. It was unreadable, but not cruel. "Commander Arlen Voss," she said. Her voice was deep but calm. "Welcome to my ship." Arlen stepped forward slowly. "I am honored," he said politely. Zyra studied him for a long moment. Her eyes were sharp, like she could see deeper than just his appearance. Then she inclined her head slightly. "Our union will shape the future of two species," she said. "But do not fear. I do not harm those under my protection." Arlen felt a strange chill, but not from fear. From curiosity. Who exactly was Zyra? And what secret lay behind her intimidating appearance? He did not know, but he was about to find out. The room felt strangely warm as Arlen stood before Zyra. The walls glowed with a soft blue light, and a quiet hum filled the air, almost like the sound of distant wind. Zyra's glowing amber eyes watched him with calm focus. She didn't blink often, and her posture was perfectly still, almost like she had trained herself not to show weakness. "Your journey must have been long," she said, stepping forward. Her armored feet made a gentle metallic sound on the floor. Humans are not used to traveling inside Thryn ships. Arlen cleared his throat. "The shuttle ride was fine. And thank you for welcoming me." Zyra studied him silently again. She always paused a second before replying, as if measuring every word. "You accepted a great responsibility," she said. "I respect that." Her voice was not unkind. It was strong, low, and steady, like someone who had seen too many battles but never allowed fear to change her. Arlen felt a slight tension fade from his shoulders. She was intimidating, yes, but not dangerous in the way many had feared. She gestured toward a small table that had two chairs, one designed for a Thryn, tall and wide, and one clearly added for a human guest. "Sit," she said gently. Arlen sat. Zyra sat opposite him. Even seated, she towered over him. Her armored form reflected the light in sharp angles. It was strange she looked like a warrior built for war, yet her presence did not feel hostile toward him. "I know your people find my appearance unsettling," Zyra said bluntly. Arlen blinked. I didn't say that." "You did not need to," she replied. "Your expression changed when you saw my hologram." Arlen felt heat rise in his face. "I wasn't afraid. Just surprised." Zyra tilted her head slightly, as if trying to understand human embarrassment. "Surprise is natural. Our species evolved differently. But appearances do not define loyalty. Strength does." Arlen nodded slowly. "I believe that." She looked satisfied with his answer. For several minutes, they discussed simple topics, Earth customs, Thryn traditions, and the details of the alliance ceremony. Zyra explained that Thryn bonding ceremonies were not romantic in the human sense. They were symbolic, representing trust and protection. She also explained that she had been chosen because she was a shield warden, a warrior class dedicated to defending alliances. As the conversation continued, Arlen noticed small details about her. Zyra never turned her head quickly. She moved slowly and carefully. She rarely blinked. And her armored form did not look like clothing or gear. It was her actual skin. Finally, Arlen gathered the courage to ask a question he had been holding back. "This form you're in, is it your natural form?" Zyra's eyes shifted slightly. "Yes and no." She stood up. Arlen tensed. She was tall enough to make him feel like a child compared to her. But Zyra's movements were gentle, controlled. She walked toward a large window built into the wall. Beyond it, stars stretched across space in bright, endless clusters. "This form is my combat state," she said, placing a clawed hand on the glass. "A protective shell. It strengthens my body and shields me in battle." Arlen listened carefully. "It is Intimidating. She continued. Because it was created for war. Arlen looked at her armored back, the plates shining like steel. He wondered what she looked like beneath it. Zyra finally turned to face him. There is another form, she said. My true form. Softer. More vulnerable. We only show it to those we trust deeply. Arlen felt the room grow still. Do all Thryn take this armored form? He asked. Only warriors, Zyra replied, and only during training, leadership duties, or war. It is part of our evolution. Arlen took a slow breath. Will I see your true form? Zyra's eyes softened slightly, almost like a warm glow. Not yet. Trust must be earned. And it goes both ways. Arlen understood. Thryn culture valued strength. But strength did not always mean aggression. Sometimes, strength meant choosing when to be vulnerable. Later, Zyra guided Arlen through the ship. They walked through long hallways, with silver floors and floating lights. Thryn crew members bowed their heads respectfully when Zyra passed. She's their leader, Arlen realized. Zyra seemed aware of his thoughts. I command this vessel and 3 others, she said. I was chosen to bond with a human because I can protect both our species. Arlen was impressed. He had expected someone cold or uninterested. Instead, Zyra seemed fully dedicated to her duty. She brought him to a training hall. The room was huge, with walls that shifted shape like living metal. Several Thryn warriors were training with energy staffs, their movements fast and precise. This is where we practice combat, Zyra said. You may watch. Arlen stood quietly as she joined the warriors. The moment she stepped forward, the entire atmosphere changed. The other warriors became alert, disciplined. Zyra raised her staff and began to spar with 2 opponents at once. Her speed was shocking. Her armored body moved with fluid strength, every motion clean and controlled. She blocked and countered attacks with ease. Sparks flew when their weapons clashed. Yet she did not fight aggressively, she fought with precision. She's not just strong, Arlen thought. She's skilled, trained, focused. When the match ended, Zyra bowed to her warriors, and they bowed back before leaving the hall. Arlen stepped closer. You're incredible, he said honestly. Zyra blinked. Twice. A sign he had learned meant she felt something close to modesty. Combat is my life, she said quietly. It is all I know. Arlen shook his head. No, I think there's more to you. She paused, surprised by his words. Hours later, Arlen rested in the quarters assigned to him. The room was simple but comfortable, with a small bed, soft lighting, and a wide window showing the stars. The silence of the Thryn ship felt different from human ships. There was no engine noise, no vibrations, just deep, endless calm. As he sat on the bed, thinking about Zyra, he heard a soft chime. The door opened automatically. Zyra stepped inside. May I enter? She asked, even though she already had. Arlen stood quickly. Of course. Zyra walked in, her armored form glowing softly under the lights. She held something in her hand, a small, glowing crystal. This is a Thryn memory shard, she said. It contains information about our customs. I thought you should have it. Arlen accepted it. Thank you. Zyra did not leave. Instead, she walked to the window and looked at the stars. Tomorrow, she said, we begin our journey toward the Coalition's homeworld. There, the bonding ceremony will take place. Arlen nodded. I understand. Zyra remained silent for several seconds. Then she said something he did not expect. I know this union was not your choice. Arlen blinked. Neither was it yours, I assume. Zyra turned her head slightly. Correct. But I gave my consent. I do not bond with someone unwilling. The council made the request. But I accepted it, because I believe this alliance is necessary. Arlen appreciated her honesty. I accepted it for the same reason. Zyra looked at him directly now. Then we are not enemies. We walk the same path. Arlen felt a small sense of connection forming, fragile, but real. She took a step closer. On our first night after the ceremony, there is a tradition. It is not what humans think. There is no forced closeness. Instead, the bonded pair shares a moment of truth. Arlen frowned. A moment of truth? Zyra nodded. We reveal something we would never reveal to others. Something personal. Something that shows trust. He swallowed. Like showing your true form? Jun? Like? And faith? Jun? And faith? And faith? And faith? Zyra's eyes glowed softly. Perhaps. Arlen felt his heartbeat quicken not from fear, but from curiosity. What did she truly look like? What was she hiding behind her armored skin? And why did she seem willing to show him someday? Zyra stepped back toward the door. Rest now, Arlen Voss. Tomorrow begins a new chapter for our species. Before leaving, she paused one last time. You are not what I expected, she said softly. The door closed, leaving Arlen alone yet somehow not feeling alone at all. He lay on the bed, staring at the memory shard in his hand, and wondered what secrets Zyra carried beneath her armor, and why, even though he barely knew her, he already wanted to understand her. The next morning, on the Thryn flagship, felt strangely peaceful. Soft lights glowed along the curved walls, and a warm, breeze-like hum filled the atmosphere. Arlen woke up earlier than usual, unable to sleep much. His thoughts were full of Zyra, her calm voice, her powerful fighting style, and the mystery of her true form that she claimed only trusted ones could see. He sat up, rubbed his face, and looked out the window at the endless stretch of stars. The ship was already moving through deep space, leaving Earth far behind. It wasn't fear that bothered him now. It was something else, something he didn't fully understand yet. A soft chime echoed, and the door opened automatically. Zyra stepped inside. Even in her armored form, she moved gracefully. Her tall figure cast a long shadow, and the faint glow from her amber eyes made the room feel warmer. Good morning, Arlen Voss, she said. Arlen nodded. Morning. Are we already on our way to the Coalition homeworld? Yes, Zyra replied. We will arrive in 2 days. But there is something important before that. Arlen raised an eyebrow. What is it? Zyra's expression hardened slightly. We have detected Drathari movements near the neutral border. Their fleet is changing formation. That usually means they are preparing for an attack. Arlen's jaw clenched. On us? Possibly, Zyra said. Or possibly on your people. The Drathari dislike any alliance that threatens their expansion. Arlen stood up. What can we do? Zyra looked at him for a moment. Come with me. She led him out of the room and into a long silver corridor. The ship seemed busier today. Thryn warriors marched back and forth, holding weapons and scanning holographic screens floating in the air. Something important was happening. They entered the command bridge, a massive circular room where dozens of Thryn worked at stations. The large central screen showed a hologram of nearby star systems. Several glowing red spots flashed near one of the borders. Zyra pointed to them. Drathari scout ships. Small, but fast. Arlen stepped closer. How close are they? Too close, Zyra said. We are not yet ready for a large conflict. We are traveling with only 4 ships. The Coalition has not yet moved its main fleet. Arlen watched the blinking red lights. Each represented an enemy, a possible threat, a danger moving through the darkness. Can we hide our presence? He asked. Zyra nodded. We are using stealth fields, but stealth does not last long for large ships. Eventually, they will detect us. Arlen understood the problem immediately. So we need to act before they attack. Zyra looked impressed. Your mind reacts quickly. That is good. Humans think differently than Thrin. You find solutions in unexpected ways. Arlen gave a small smile. I guess we're unpredictable. Unpredictable, Zyra repeated softly. Yes. That is why the Drothari fear your species, even if they do not admit it. Before Arlen could reply, an alarm echoed. The red lights on the screen multiplied. Zyra's voice sharpened. They found us. Everything changed in seconds. Thrin warriors moved quickly, taking positions. The lights dimmed to battle mode. The ship shifted direction sharply, gliding through space like a massive predator preparing to pounce. Zyra turned to Arlen. Stay close. You are not safe alone. Arlen followed her to a tactical station where a hologram of the enemy ships expanded. 6 Drothari raiders, a Thrin officer reported. Approaching fast. They want to test us, Zyra said. But we will not give them that chance. She grabbed her staff and walked toward a side hallway. Arlen blinked. Where are you going? To the combat deck, Zyra replied. They will board us. Arlen felt a chill. The Drothari liked to send small boarding teams to disable ships from inside. He had faced them once before. They were ruthless, fast, and heavily armored. Then I'm coming too, Arlen said quickly. Zyra stopped and turned towards him. You have no armor, no weapon, no training in our tactics. It is unsafe. Arlen frowned. I fought Drothari before. I won't stand here and hide. Zyra stared at him for a long moment. Something changed in her eyes. Respect. Very well, she said. Stay beside me. Do exactly what I say. They moved quickly through the narrow halls until they reached a large chamber filled with Thrin warriors preparing for combat. Weapons glowed in their hands. Energy shields flickered on their arms. Zyra stepped forward, and every warrior bowed. She was their leader, their strongest fighter. Arlen swallowed. He suddenly felt very aware of how dangerous this situation was. The ship shook violently. They have latched onto our hull, a warrior shouted. Boarders! Incoming! Zyra lifted her staff. Hold! Formation! The walls slid open, forming a circular battle platform. Arlen stood behind Zyra, feeling the adrenaline rush through his veins. A loud metallic tearing sound echoed. The Drothari broke through. Tall, armored reptilian forms rushed into the chamber, their claws sharp and glowing. They hissed, loudly, their red eyes flashing with aggression. The Thrin clashed against them instantly. The battle was chaos energy blasts flashed in the air, staffs cracked against armored scales, and shouts echoed off the walls. Zyra moved like lightning. Her staff spun in wide arcs, knocking enemy warriors back. Arlen watched, stunned by her speed. A Drothari charged at him. Arlen acted on instinct. He grabbed a fallen weapon, a small energy blade, and blocked the attack just in time. The impact sent him stumbling backward, but he didn't fall. He fought back, striking at the weak points near the enemy's neck. The Drothari roared in pain and retreated. Zyra noticed. For a moment, her eyes widened, not in fear, but in surprise. Human strength, she whispered. More than I expected. She rushed toward Arlen, blocking an incoming attack aimed at him. Her staff smashed into the Drothari soldier's chest, sending him sliding across the floor. Stay with me, she said firmly. And Arlen did. They fought side by side as more enemies poured in. At one moment, a Drothari warrior aimed a plasma blade at Arlen's side. Zyra saw it at the last second. Without hesitation, she jumped in front of him. The blade struck her armored shoulder, sparks flying. Zyra! Arlen shouted. But Zyra barely flinched. She grabbed the Drothari by the neck and threw him aside. I told you, she said, breathing heavily. I do not let harm come to those under my protection. Arlen felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, not panic, pride, and something softer. He looked at Zyra with new eyes. She wasn't just a warrior. She was someone who would risk everything for those she cared about. After several minutes of brutal combat, the Drathari finally retreated. Alarms stopped. The lights brightened. The Thryn warriors cheered softly, a calm, disciplined celebration. Zyra approached Arlen, her armor cracked slightly from the attack she blocked. "You fought well," she said. Arlen shook his head. "You saved my life." Zyra tilted her head. "And you saved mine. You warned me of the enemy behind me. That blow could have struck my spine." Arlen blinked. "I didn't notice. I just reacted." Zyra placed her staff on the ground and leaned closer. "That is what makes humans dangerous," she said. "Your instincts. Your unpredictability. The Drathari cannot calculate it." Arlen felt her words settle deep inside him. Zyra continued. "You are not weak, Arlen Voss. And you are not here only because of politics. I see now why your people look to you. You inspire them." Arlen didn't know what to say. He simply nodded. Zyra then turned to the tactical officer. "Report." The officer bowed. The Drathari left behind a data fragment. An encoded message. "Drathari left BR. End 4018. Zyra frowned. "Open it." A hologram appeared. It showed a giant rotating device, a massive weapon aimed at a blue planet. Earth. Arlen's blood turned cold. "What is that?" Zyra answered without hesitation. "The Drathari's new planet killer, and they plan to use it on your homeworld." Arlen felt the room spin. Zyra stepped beside him. "This alliance, this marriage, it is not only symbolic. You were meant to know this truth. Together, we must stop this weapon." Arlen looked at Zyra, tall, armored, glowing. For the first time, he didn't see her as an alien he was forced to marry. He saw her as someone who might become his greatest ally, and maybe something more. The Thryn ship glided silently through the darkness of space, heading toward the Drathari stronghold. Every crew member was alert. Every Thryn warrior moved with purpose. But for Arlen, the quiet moments between the alarms were the hardest. He kept thinking of the planet killer, of Earth, and of the lives that would end if they failed. And he kept thinking of Zyra, her strength, her calm presence, and that mysterious form she had refused to show him. They walked together along the bridge corridor, their footsteps echoing softly. Zyra was quiet, but the hum of her armor spoke of constant readiness. Arlen finally asked, "How do we even get close to the weapon?" "The Drathari defenses are huge." "Over." "Every weapon. The Drathari defenses are huge." Zyra glanced at him, her glowing eyes unreadable. "We will not follow the usual path. We will use human ingenuity." Arlen blinked. She nodded. "Humans do not always follow logic that we expect. You think unpredictably. That makes you dangerous." He realized she was giving him credit, but it also meant she wanted him to participate actively, not just follow orders. Later, in the strategy room, holographic maps displayed the Drathari's stronghold. The weapon hovered above a barren planet, spinning slowly, energy surging across its surface. Defensive turrets surrounded it in layers, making any direct assault nearly impossible. Zyra tapped the map. A frontal attack would fail. Too many turrets. Too many fighters. We will lose every ship. Arlen leaned forward. "Then we don't attack with ships. We go inside." Zyra's eyes widened slightly. "Inside? Think about it," Arlen said, pointing to a smaller transport line on the hologram. "Their internal corridors are limited. Their troops are strong, but we can move faster. We only need to reach the control room. Disable the weapon, and get out before reinforcements arrive. I'm Self. Wells. Zyra studied him carefully. That is extremely risky. Extremely, Arlen admitted. But if we fail, Earth dies, and the Coalition may lose faith in humans. It's a chance we must take. Zyra stayed silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Very well. We will do it your way. Arlen felt a spark of hope, and something else, trust forming, quietly but steadily. The next day, the strike team prepared. Arlen was given a specialized combat suit designed to protect him in Thrin environments. It was light, but strong, with energy shields built into the fabric. Zyra stood beside him in her full armored combat form, her staff hummed with energy. Around them, the strike team assembled Thrin warriors, human engineers, and a few elite soldiers from both sides. Zyra approached Arlen. There is one condition, she said, her voice low but firm. I will not fight from a distance. I will not leave you behind. And you must stay by my side. Arlen swallowed. Agreed. For the first time, he saw a hint of vulnerability behind her glowing eyes, a sign that she truly meant it. The transport shuttle detached from the main ship, moving silently toward the Drathari stronghold. Arlen and Zyra stood side by side, staring at the massive enemy weapon. It was more enormous than any human could imagine. Spinning parts glowed with energy. Lightning-like arcs surged around it, making it look alive. Remember the plan, Arlen said, gripping his suit controls. Zyra nodded. Stay close. Watch my movements. Trust me. He took a deep breath and followed her as they exited the shuttle. Inside the Drathari facility, darkness and silence dominated. The corridors were wide, but the hum of energy warned them of danger. Zyra led the way, moving with perfect precision, taking out a few patrols silently. Arlen noticed how she shifted subtly, her armored form absorbing blows and striking back with minimal effort. He realized why she had looked ugly to humans before her body was designed for battle. Not appearances. But as they moved deeper, the hallways became narrower, and Zyra slowed slightly. She tapped her wrist communicator. Now, she said softly. Then she did something Arlen had never seen. Her armor began to shimmer. Plates retracted, glowing energy fading. In seconds, her combat form transformed. Arlen froze. Before him stood Zyra in her true form, tall, elegant, humanoid. Her features soft but still powerful. Her skin glowed faintly silver, and her amber eyes now held warmth, not just fire. Her hands were delicate but capable. You changed? Arlen whispered. Yes, Zyra said softly. I trust you. And now, you must trust me. Arlen felt something shift inside him. The intimidating alien was gone. In her place stood a being strong enough to protect worlds, yet willing to be vulnerable for him. He nodded. They reached the control room. The weapon's central core pulsed with bright energy. Drathari soldiers guarded it, moving in synchronized patterns. Zyra and Arlen exchanged a glance. They understood each other without words. Arlen whispered, I'll create a distraction. You go for the control panel. Zyra shook her head. We do this together. They moved in unison. Zyra's agility allowed her to block enemy attacks, while Arlen used his human unpredictability to outmaneuver guards. Together, they fought like one being, combining skill, speed, and strategy. Every step brought them closer to the control panel. Every attack tested their teamwork. Finally, they reached it. Arlen hacked into the Drathari system while Zyra kept the enemies at bay. Sparks flew, alarms blared, but they didn't stop. Arlen's hands moved quickly over the interface. Almost done. Zyra blocked a powerful strike, sending the attacker flying. Hurry! She shouted. With one final command, Arlen triggered the shutdown sequence. The massive weapon's core began to dim. Energy arcs collapsed inward, the hum slowing, until silence returned. They had done it. But the victory was not without cost. The Drathari reinforcements began to swarm the room. Zyra grabbed Arlen's arm. "We leave together. Now!" They ran through the corridors, fighting off soldiers as they moved. Arlen realized that Zyra was willing to risk her life for him again and again. Outside, the shuttle waited. They jumped inside, Arlen piloting, while Zyra covered him with energy blasts. The facility began to collapse behind them as the weapon destabilized. They escaped just in time. The massive energy core exploded, sending a shockwave that could be seen across the galaxy. Arlen exhaled, staring at Zyra. "We did it." Zyra smiled faintly. For the first time, Arlen saw something beyond the warrior, a partner, an equal, someone willing to trust him completely. And he realized that this bond, forced at first, had grown into something powerful and real. Back on the Thryn ship, the two were celebrated by the crew. Humans and Thryn alike acknowledged their courage and teamwork, but Arlen's mind was elsewhere. He looked at Zyra. "Your true form. You trusted me with it. That's incredible." Zyra's amber eyes softened. "And you have earned my trust. That is rare for humans." Arlen smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "Thank you. But you saved my life countless times today. I should be thanking you." Zyra shook her head. "It is not about thanks. It is about survival and duty, and about understanding each other." Arlen nodded slowly. "I think I finally understand." See, they didn't speak much after that. But the silence was comfortable. The bond between them had changed. It was no longer political. It was not forced. It was genuine. And as they looked out at the stars, Arlen realized that humanity had a new ally in Zyra, not just because of a treaty, but because of trust, courage, and mutual respect. A new chapter had begun, one where humans and aliens could stand together, side by side, against any enemy. And Arlen knew deep down that this was only the beginning. The aftermath of the battle was quiet, almost unreal. The Drathari superweapon had been destroyed. The shockwave had lit up the nearby star systems, signaling a victory not just for humans, but for the entire Thryn coalition. Yet, aboard the flagship, the mood was calm and reflective rather than celebratory. Arlen sat quietly in the strategy room, staring at the holographic star maps. The blue dots marking human colonies seemed brighter now, safer. But he knew the war was far from over. The Drathari were retreating for now, but they would return. They always did. Zyra entered, her true form visible for all to see, though she still carried herself with the quiet confidence of a warrior. She moved toward him with her usual calm grace. "You are thinking too much," she said softly. Arlen looked up and smiled faintly. "Maybe, or maybe, I'm thinking of the future." Zyra studied him for a moment. "The future is uncertain. But today, you made a choice that matters. You saved countless lives." He shook his head. "We saved them. You saved them. I just helped where I could." Zyra tilted her head slightly. "You did more than help. You adapted when I could not. Your unpredictability, your human creativity, was as important as my strength. Together, we were unstoppable." Arlen couldn't help but feel a rush of pride. Not just in himself, but in the bond that had grown between them. It was no longer a political obligation. It was real. The crew began gathering in the central hall to report the mission results. Engineers, soldiers, and Thryn warriors all shared their findings. Human engineers confirmed that the weapon's main systems were completely disabled, and its repair would take decades, giving Earth time to prepare for any future attacks. Commander Arlen Voss, a senior engineer, called out. Your actions today have ensured the survival of billions. Humanity owes you a debt that cannot be measured. Arlen glanced at Zyra. She gave him a small nod. The recognition was theirs to share. Your trust in humans has not gone unnoticed, Zyra said quietly, walking beside him as they moved through the cheering crew. Arlen smiled. I think we've both learned a lot about trust. That evening, the ship slowed near a Thrin system for repair and resupply. Arlen and Zyra stood together on the observation deck, looking out at the strange, blue and green world below. Thrin cities glimmered like scattered stars, and their unique spires rose high into the sky. I wanted to show you my homeworld after the battle, Zyra said. It is not Earth, but it is beautiful in its own way. Arlen nodded. It is. And I think I understand more about your people now. You are disciplined, loyal, and honorable. You fight for what matters. Zyra's amber eyes softened. And humans fight for what they love, even if it seems reckless to others. That is why your species survives. That is why you inspire me. Arlen felt a strange warmth. He had faced countless battles, seen countless lives lost, and yet, he had never felt this kind of admiration or respect from someone he considered a peer. Zyra was more than a warrior. She was someone who understood the weight of responsibility, the value of trust, and the importance of courage. Later, in private, Zyra led Arlen to a ceremonial chamber, a quiet room designed for Thrin rituals. She gestured to a small platform in the center. This is where the bonding ceremony will take place, she said. It is simple, but it carries great meaning. The ceremony binds two beings in trust and mutual protection. It is not about appearance, but about the heart and will. Arlen studied her, noting the strength in her posture, the calm resolve in her eyes. I understand. The Reckler. Zyra continued. I will reveal my full trust now. You have seen my true form, but the ceremony is a choice. It is yours to accept fully. Arlen stepped forward. I do. I accept. She reached out, and they placed their hands together. A soft light glowed where their palms met, spreading slowly and gently through the room. The energy wasn't dangerous. It was comforting, almost like a warm breeze. The room hummed with a quiet resonance, connecting them not through obligation, but through trust. For the first time, Arlen felt the full weight of what their bond truly meant. We are partners, Zyra said softly. Not just for the Thrin or humanity, but for each other. We protect each other, in battle and in life. Arlen nodded. Partners, together. The next few days were quiet as the ship continued toward the Thrin central system. Arlen spent time learning more about Zyra's people, their traditions, and their perspectives. He shared stories of Earth with her, of cities, forests, oceans, and humans who had fought and survived against impossible odds. Zyra listened intently, occasionally asking questions. She seemed fascinated by the human way of thinking, how they could be both reckless and brilliant, both fragile and resilient. You inspire me, she said one evening, as they observed a star rising above the horizon. Your species does not rely solely on strength. You rely on willpower, determination, courage. That is why humans endure, where others fail. Arlen felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought of humans in that way before. To have someone like Zyra, the strongest of the Thrin, acknowledge that, it was humbling and empowering at the same time. And you inspire me too, he admitted. You've shown me that strength isn't just power. It's patience, discipline, and protecting what matters. I've never met anyone like you. Unquote. Zyra's amber eyes softened. Then, we have learned from each other. That is why this bond is important, not just for survival, but for growth. By the time they returned to Thrin space, news had spread of their victory. Both humans and Thrin hailed the duo as heroes. Arlen was celebrated for his ingenuity and bravery, but it was clear that Zyra's strength and leadership had been crucial. When the Alliance Council gathered to recognize their achievement, Arlen and Zyra stood side by side. The room was filled with applause, cheers, and nods of respect. The head of the council spoke. Today, we celebrate not just victory, but the union of courage and trust. Commander Arlen Voss and Zyra of the Iron Crest clan have proven that two species, once strangers, can stand together as equals. Humanity has earned respect in this galaxy, not through fear, but through courage, intelligence, and determination. Arlen glanced at Zyra. She nodded faintly, her glowing eyes filled with quiet pride. He realized something then. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were capable of greatness, of survival, of earning a place among the stars. And he knew that humans were not alone anymore. They had allies. They had friends. And now, he had someone he could truly trust. Later that evening, Arlen and Zyra returned to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them. Earth shone in the distance. A small, fragile blue dot that was safe for now. Zyra stepped closer. We have done what many thought impossible. Earth lives because we acted together. Arlen smiled faintly. It wasn't just luck. It was humans. And you. Together. She looked at him. You accepted a bond that was forced at first. Yet you made it real. That is why I respect you. That is why I trust you. Arlen took her hand in his. And I trust you, Zyra. Not because of the mission. Not because of politics. Because of who you are. I know you'd stand by me. No matter what. Her amber eyes softened even more. And I will. Always. For a long moment, they stood silently, hand in hand, gazing at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of threats, challenges, and mysteries. But together, they felt unstoppable. Not because they were alone. Not because they were invincible. But because they had each other. And because they had humanity's courage behind them. Days turned into weeks as the Thrin and human fleets reorganized. Plans for future defenses, joint patrols, and mutual cooperation began to take shape. Arlen and Zyra continued to work together, strategizing, training, and learning from each other. Their partnership had grown from necessity into genuine respect, trust, and friendship. And though the Drathari threat still lingered in the galaxy, Earth was no longer defenseless. Humans had proven that they could not only survive, they could thrive. They could fight with courage, lead with intelligence, and inspire others to follow. Zyra turned to Arlen one evening, as they watched a distant nebula glow in vibrant colors. You, humans, you are remarkable. Arlen chuckled softly. So are you. Stronger than anyone I've ever met. And yet, willing to trust someone you barely knew? Zyra smiled faintly. Then, perhaps our species are not so different. Both willing to fight, both willing to protect, both willing to trust. Arlen nodded. Yes. And together, we can face whatever comes next. The stars shone endlessly above, a galaxy full of possibilities. And humanity, with allies like Zyra, was ready to face them all. For the first time, Arlen felt something deeper than duty or honor. He felt hope. He felt pride. He felt home. And in that quiet moment, he realized that the alliance once forced, once feared, had grown into something far more powerful. Something unbreakable. Something real. The end.